Welcome back for another episode of Errant Adventures, the solo actual play podcast where stories are told at the speed of dice. With me, Steve Morrison, your game master and solo player. Now come on, let's grab the dice and see where our story goes. Welcome back for Chapter 30 of Book 1, Meridian. Last time, Sejana and the Marines try to remove themselves from the blocked corridor, but the door that leads them away enters a storage facility with dangerous materials. Too late, Sejana realizes it's a trap, and she, Decure Vithena, and 3 other Marines are sealed into the room. She attempts to bypass the doors, but fails, and realizing they have seconds before the room detonates, she opens a void portal back into the hallway they came out of. She's only able to pull Vithena through with her as the room explodes, instantly killing the 3 Marines. After shaking off the horrific experience, she and the other Marines continue their laborious trek through the barrier walls of the corridor. They continue fighting through waves of defenses until they're within reach of the main labs. Sejana uses the void to cloak herself and sneaks forward on the ceiling, using gravitic plates in her boots and gauntlets to bypass the entrenched security forces. While Vithena and his Marines engage the defenses as a distraction, Sejana finds the door to the lab, overrides it, and opens it. The hatch to the lab slides open with a whoosh. There are 3 security officers inside, along with a pair of scientists cowering in the rear of the room. Several long tables have been upended for cover, and there's signs of hastily moved experiments. A row of canisters line one wall. None of the security officers see her with the void cloak still active, but as soon as she fires at them, she'll become visible. It's more than likely she'll also draw the attention of the other security forces, but time waits for no one, and she has little choice. Taking a deep breath, she steps into the room. Switching to auto, Sejana fires 3 quick bursts at the heads of the waiting opponents. She has a +3 to her gun combat, +1 for being within short range. 3 quick shots. Here we go. 11, 9, 10. Okay, well, it's not great. So the security officers are behind cover. So that's technically going to give Sejana a DM -2, which means the first and third shot will hit their target, barely, but number 2 is going to miss entirely. I don't think these security officers have combat armor. They're not really equipped for this sort of business, but they still have flak jackets on, which is going to reduce the damage by 5. First hit will have a +1 for effect, 3D. That is 11 -5. That's going to be 6 damage, gets through to the first guard. Second one is just a straight 3D damage. 5 gets through the armor on that one. Sejana steps through the hatch and fires. As soon as the kinetics leave her rifle, the void cloak dissipates and the security officers see her. All 3 duck behind their cover, though 1 and 3 take a glancing blow across their armored backs as they do. And now it's time for initiative. Sejana is going to be rolling plus intellect. Ooh, that's going to be a 12. The security is rolling plus dexterity. A 9. They are surprised by her sudden appearance, and she's faster than they are. Going left, she slides across the floor, switching to burst mode with a quick thought, and firing at guard number 1. No cover DM this time, as she gets parallel with the overturned table. +4, 12. That's an effect of 4. 3D +3 for the burst. 19 reduced to 14, catches the crouching guard in the chest and neck. Blood spurts across the back of the table, and one of the scientists screams. The other 2 guards react to Sejana being past their barricade, turning and firing. 2 shots ring out, one with an assault rifle, the other with a shotgun, both at +3. 11 and 13. Both of those are going to hit. The assault rifle is 3D, plus 2 for burst, plus 3 for effect. That is 17 points of damage. Now, the Imperial Special Service armor that Sejana is wearing has an armor rating of 19. So it peppers the ground around her and her breastplate, almost driving her back, but the Durasteel holds, absorbing some of the kinetic force and diffusing it around her. The shotgun blast catches her next. That's going to be 4D plus 5 for effect. That's 19. The force of the shotgun picks her up and tosses her against the wall, smashing a glass cabinet. But once again, the armor absorbs the impact. Round 2. She fires again, this time switching back to auto and targeting 2 shots on guard number 2 and 1 on guard number 3. Plus 4 again. 9, 11, and 13. All 3 are going to be hits. Guard number 2 is going to take 3D plus 1 and 3D plus 3. Ugh. Oh boy, 4 and 3, so that is 7 total points of damage after armor. That is absolutely pitiful rolls on that damage. Damage for guard number 3 will be 3D plus 5. 4 damage. I have seen more 1s and 2s in the last 30 seconds than I really particularly enjoy. Guard 3 already took 5 damage, so that additional 4 reduces 1 of his stats to 0, but he is still very much in the fight. Sejana climbs out of the wreckage of the cabinet and fires 2 quick bursts at one guard and a 3rd burst at the other. The spray of metallic rounds fills the air, slamming into the 2 guards, but their flak armor seems to be well made. They're both bruised and battered, but they're still in the fight, and they have murder in their eyes. Guard number 2 fires his rifle at plus 3. 13. Oof. Guard 3 also fires with the shotgun. Ooh, Dark Star. Okay, that's not good at all. Damage for the first hit is 3D plus 2, plus 5 for the effect. 15. Oh, thank goodness for that low roll. Her armor is going to absorb all of that one. The shotgun is going to go off for 4D plus 7 for the effect. I've got a feeling this one's going to hurt. 24 points of damage. 5 of that slips through Sejana's armor, and her endurance drops to 4. The first guard lights her up, but nanobots in the armor redirect the kinetic energy by slightly angling the armor plates. They're not fast enough to readjust, as another blast of the shotgun catches her center mass and throws her back against the wall again. She grunts from the impact and can feel bruising already starting. Round 3. Before we get started on this, it's time to ask the Oracle. Do any of the guards in the hall notice the commotion? I actually think it's unlikely because they're focused on the hallway in front of them rather than this room around the corner. So it's going to be 25 or less. 67 is a no. Okay, it is time to light them up again. Sejana is going to fire 2 shots at the guard with the shotgun, and then 1 shot at guard number 2. Plus 4, 12, and 13. And then 14 on the attack against guard number 2. Okay, I think this could be it. Damage to shotgun guard is 3D plus 4 and 3D plus 5. Sejana only needs 9 to take him out of the fight. 18 will kill him outright. Let's find out. 9 and 12 after armor. That's definitely going to do it. Damage for guard number 2 is 3D plus 6. She needs 11 damage to knock him out of the fight, or 20 to kill him. Ooh, she angry now. 17 damage after the armor reduces. Breath ragged from the pain in her chest and abdomen, Sejana narrows her focus and swivels her rifle towards the guard with the shotgun. 2 bursts in quick succession obliterate his skull. His body hasn't hit the ground before she's acquired a lock on the last remaining guard. The burst of kinetic rounds catches him in the chest and the shoulder. He goes down gasping and gurgling, frantically grasping at the now spurting wounds. Crossing back to the hatch, she closes it without taking her eyes from the two scientists. Once it is sealed and relocked, she crosses to the guards and kicks their weapons back, away from the bodies, and towards the side where the glass is shattered. Grimacing, she points her rifle at the scientists and asks,
"Where is the nerve agent?"
They both cower in fear, hands raised. She gestures towards the guard who's still gasping, and the first one who went down, who is somehow still breathing.
"Tell me where the nerve agent is, and I will let you tend to these men. If you hold out on me, we're going to wait, and I can tell you without looking too closely that they don't have more than a few minutes."
One of the scientists looks up and says, "We're not doctors, we're researchers. We need to call medics."
"This is a biolab. I'm sure you probably know more than you think. Right now, applying pressure is the most important thing you can do. I can talk you through more, but I need to know where the nerve agent is."
The two scientists look at each other, and the one who hasn't spoken yet nods slightly. The other says, "All right, they're in storage, but I can call them up to the lab." She gestures towards the command console. Sejana releases her rifle and draws her laser pistol, holding it close to her body. She steps aside so she can keep an eye on the other scientists and guards while the one who spoke up activates the system. Once she finishes entering her security codes, Sejana says,
"That's good enough. I'll take it from here. Grab some of those towels and apply pressure. Hold them steady."
Then she enters a command into the computer system. We're going to make one more roll, an electronics computers check at +3. The target number is going to be 10. 7 + 3 is 10 exactly. It takes her a few minutes to find the canisters she's looking for, and she issues the acquisition command. Drones in the lab's storage bay pull out the selected canisters and load them into the grav lift, sending them up to the lab itself. "What are you doing?" one of the scientists asks, glancing up from where she's holding towels to the wounds on the guard beside her. Sejana keeps her laser pistol trained in their direction while she directs one of the small worker drones in the room to pick up the first canister. She unlocks the hatch and sends it out into the hall. A video feed displays on the lab quick screen showing the hallway. She flies the drone up toward the ceiling and sends it above the defenders. "You can't," the scientist says. "You'll kill them." She sounds desperate, and Sejana gives her a look.
"Don't worry, just a little taste,"
she says, and activates the canister. A brief spray of the nerve agent expels from the canister, and Sejana uses the drone's repulsors to mix it into the air, sending it shooting downward toward the security officers. Within seconds, they've slumped over. The other scientist starts to rise, a desperate look in his eyes, but Sejana raises her laser pistol and says,
"Don't. If you try to rush me, you and the man bleeding at your feet will die. Be smart."
Staring down the laser pistol's emitter seems to change his mind, and he sinks back down, reapplying pressure. Sejana brings the pistol back to her chest and enters another command. The drone raises the canister to one of the air vents, and it opens, dispersing the contents into the vent. She cracks into the station controls, not so difficult from this authorized lab station, and reverses the draw on the environmental systems, pulling the canister's contents into the oxygen mix and beginning the process of redistributing it throughout the station. Based on the information Captain Royal originally provided, his scientists made some educated guesses as to the efficacy of a canister at pacifying the population of the refinery. Sejana looks at the scientists and says,
"I know being held at gunpoint is frightening, but I can assure you the Gita Protectorate is only interested in ending the stalemate with the Skaza Mining Consortium. I didn't come here to commit mass murder, so I want you to be honest with me. Is one canister enough for the station? Tell me the truth, and I assure you the people of this station will not be harmed.
I'm going to make a persuade roll, in which Sejana has 0 training, so it's going to be at -3. But I'm going to say this is a target number of 6, and she gets a boon die on this roll because, well, she's hella intimidating, especially in her Technomancer mask, and because these scientists are not really capable of resisting her. She already suspects she knows the answer based on the math of Royal scientists, so this is more just for assurance. So we're going to roll 3d6 and take the best 2, -3 for the dice modifier because she doesn't have any social to add either. Here we go. 10 minus 3 is a 7, which is a success. The two scientists look at each other, and there seems to be a couple of seconds of silent communication before the woman turns back and says, "One canister won't take down the whole station. It'll be sufficient for the top 3 floors, which will capture most of the management and security forces. To pacify the whole station would take about 2.5 canisters." Sejana nods. That's in line with the information she's been provided. She diverts the environmental systems to disperse the gas through the top 3 floors and says,
"Good. Thank you."
Glancing at the quick screen, she sees Vithenna and his Marines crossing into the corridor, removing weapons from the unconscious security. She opens her comm and says,
"I need a medic in here. I'm unsealing the hatch now."
Then looking at the two scientists, she says,
"You're going to lose consciousness in a moment, but I promise we will take care of your injured."
And she releases the hatch. Once the injured have been stabilized and sealed into a room with their compatriots, sans weapons, the infiltration team makes their way up to the executive level. Everyone they encounter is unconscious, so they make a quick passage to the chief executive's office, where they find a gray-haired man slumped over in his desk. Decure Vithenna gestures towards the desk and says,
"Would you care to do the honors?"
Shaking her head, Sejana says,
"I'm just an advisor. This is your operation."
Vithenna shrugs and steps forward, activating the comm system built into the desk.
"This station is now under the control of Gida Protectorate Marines. All Skaza Mining Consortium personnel, including those aboard the ships, stand down. Your senior leadership are now our prisoners. They and the inhabitants of this station will not be harmed so long as you cease all operations. I repeat again, stand down."
He deactivates the comm and looks at her and says,
"Now we see if they listen." "They'll listen," she replies. "Without someone to release their payment, there's nothing left to fight for."
The destroyer and other Skaz ships stand down within minutes of receiving the broadcast. The Alabaster and other Gita ships had pulled back shortly after the insertion team landed. An out-and-out brawl between the scout frigate and the destroyer would have ended poorly for both ships, but they had led the Skaz fleet on a merry chase through the asteroids for long enough to prevent the crews aboard from returning to assist the station. With the Skaza Mining Consortium's senior leadership under control, there's no further resistance. More Marines disembark onto the refinery, brought in by troop carriers that have been hanging back in the shadow of the moon, waiting for the all-clear. The captain of the destroyer, also a former military commander, surrenders to Captain Royal with little argument, and the captain claims the destroyer as part of the Protectorate's fleet. Once relieved by the other Marines, Sejana, Vithenna, and the surviving drop troops return to the Alabaster, where Captain Royal awaits. He's already seen the logs Vithenna submitted, and his face is neutral as they board. He looks over the Marines and says, "Well done. We couldn't have done this without you. Get cleaned up, get some rest, and we'll hold a memorial for the fallen in a few days. Decure Meridian. Please remain." The Marines salute and start off towards their drop bay. Sejana remains stationary, grateful for her mask hiding the weariness she knows is evident in her face. She's not sure what Vithena's report said about the mission, but she only cares to the extent that Royal holds up his side of the bargain. Vithena starts past, following his Marines, then stops and turns to her. He extends a hand, which she takes, and says, "There wasn't time enough to save them, but I know you tried. It's been an honor, Dicure. If you ever need a drop troop to go into hell with you, please don't hesitate to ask." She nods and releases his hand. He hesitates another heartbeat, then salutes the captain and walks off. There's silence in the corridor for a moment while Captain Royal studies her. Then he says, "You've lived up to your reputation. Thank you."
"Your Marines are tough and a credit to the ship,"
she says.
"I wish we'd brought them all back."
Dicure Vithena's report indicated you did everything in your power to save them. It's all we can ask.
"I'd like to return to my ship now,"
Sejana says, the exhaustion hitting in full force. Of course. We have to remain on station for a few more hours while we see to the transfer of the consortium's senior leadership to our brig for transport back to Gita, but I've had quarters prepared for you if you'd like to rest. Royal gestures down the hall and they start to walk. I'm happy to tell you that our engineers are working quickly on repairs to your ship. They expect it will be spaceworthy in about 2 days. In the meantime, your crew is welcome to enjoy the hospitality, albeit meager, of the Gita Protectorate. You have our thanks. They stop in front of a hatch, which slides open with a command from the captain. It's a small enclosed bunk, larger than the shared bunks of the other crew members, and Sejana immediately recognizes it as a senior non-commissioned officer's bunk. Captain Royal gestures to it and says, "If you're hungry, you're welcome to visit the mess or have something brought to you. I recognize you're not part of my chain of command, but I'd certainly like to order you to get some rest. I also want to make clear, whatever you may think of our arrangement, you are free to move about the ship. I'll make sure you're informed as we're approaching home."
"Thank you, Captain,"
Sejana says, stepping into the bunk.
"I think I'll take sleep for now."
Royal nods and says, "Once again, thank you." The hatch slides shut, and Sejana slumps against the wall. Reaching up, she unseals the mask from her face. It pulls at her skin a little, a remnant of the transit through the void. But once it comes free, she sighs. Removing her armor, she finds a purpling bruise on her sternum, where the repeated shotgun blasts slammed into her armor. Taking advantage of the luxury, she attaches her deep skin to the charging station and takes a long, hot shower. Finally, she lays back on the bed, orders the lights off, and stares into the darkness. Exhaustion gnaws at her consciousness, beckoning her to sleep. But as she drifts away, for the barest of heartbeats, she sees the seared souls of those poor Marines being devoured by void wraiths, and sleep runs from her. She lays in the darkness for a long time, staring at nothing, until at last, irrevocable, irresistible, sleep returns and takes her. Thanks for listening to Errant Adventures. If you enjoyed the show, please spread the word. And if you want to support the show directly, leave me a review or support me on Patreon at patreon.com/errantadventures. You can also buy me a coffee at ko-fi.com/errantadventures. If you want to interact with me, my handle on all the socials is @errantsolopod, or you can email me at errantsolopod@gmail.com. I also post short fiction and campaign-related materials on my website, errantadventurespod.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you in the deep, liars.